What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Fight. I'm Mike, joined as always by my main man, Zach. What's going on, man?
Not much. What's happening with you?
Oh, same old, same old. Always, another day. Alright, we got a lot going on this week. We dive into the current anti-white and anti-male culture. We got update on Governor Cuomo and what's going on with that. And a lot more, so let's get to it. Some quick announcements. Starting this week, look for us on Rumble, Google Podcasts, and other sites. Unfortunately, till I actually go through the process and upload the first one, because all the sites have their own different standards and all that. So we'll have the specifics next week, but we will be uploading this week, so look for us just about everywhere now.
Anywhere you get podcasts, you can.
Yeah. And again, along with Rumble and those other video sites as well. Aside from that, also, this week I will be starting up or bringing back my solo little companion podcast. What it's going to be is special episodes, stuff like that. Maybe big things that maybe we didn't want to dedicate a whole show to because we got a lot to get to during our main talks and all that, you know what I mean? So this Wednesday, we're going to do a deep dive into the border crisis and everything that's unfolding down there. So look for that as well.
That's why Michael really doesn't like me.
Well, you're always welcome to join, man. Maybe we just Skype in there or something like that. We won't be able to do our huge grandeur, like here, but we can work it out if you want to join in on that one.
We'll figure it
out. Canceling whiteness and masculinity. That's all the rage these days.
Oh my God, rage is right. Rage Against the Machine. And for those of you who have not seen that video, there's a video that came out by Rage Against the Machine, it was on their YouTube channel, I should say. I don't know per se that they created it, but they're definitely a part of it, that's for sure. And they posted it on their YouTube channel, and they ended up turning the comments off so people can't even voice their opinion on it. And the whole video is of them basically brainwashing children. And there's actually, because you've seen them, like, there's a scene in there where they have like this girl who's maybe 12 years old, and she's sitting on her bed feeling awkward. You could tell because you get that vibe from it. And they're trying to basically humiliate her and try to get her to talk about when she finally realized she was white and how did it make her feel to be white.
Right.
And the kid basically had no answer and was like, can we just talk about something else? And the kid was completely awkward.
Well, that was first of all, the whole video is disturbing. Mm-hmm. But I think that part in particular, for me as well, was particularly disturbing because, like you said, and I don't even think she was that old. You know what I mean? I would even say maybe like the 8 to 10 range.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking a little kid.
Yep.
And like you said, she's sitting on her bed, and you have some bitch sitting behind the camera or whatever.
Her mother, probably.
Right. And she says, well, when did you first realize you were white? And at first, the girl does like a little like laugh off, you know what I mean?
Awkward smile.
And then, but they just sit there in awkward silence for, 30 seconds or more. And you can tell by her demeanor and her body language and everything, she starts to look like a kid who's in trouble and being questioned. You know what I mean? Like, she looks like she's in trouble. She looks like she's feeling bad. You know what I mean? And all they end with then is, well, does that make you feel bad? You know what I mean? Right. And then they end up having to stop. She never does answer. It's incredibly difficult to watch. You feel incredibly bad for that little kid and that they're putting her in that position. But yeah, the whole video is bad. We're going to discuss it all here. Also, I am going to put a link to this video in the description for this. So you will be able to easily link to it, watch it for yourself, see what we're talking about. Or if you want to look it up on your own, it's called Ex Uma Chroma by Rage Against the Machine. But like I said, we will have a link for that also in the description.
If you ask me, that is 100% not only child endangerment, but that is child abuse.
Right.
It's not physical abuse, it's mental abuse.
Yeah.
You're trying to drive a specific idea and emotion into a kid that is otherwise innocent and just trying to be a child. And you're forcing them to feel a certain way. You can feel in the atmosphere of the video.
Exactly.
And then, of course, they add the music to it, make it seem all hyping. Who are you hyping?
Right.
That is absolutely terrible.
Can we just agree that we should, let children be children?
Right.
And not only that, but if all right, so what's going on in this video, obviously that kid is in that atmosphere all day, every day. Now that's just going to be the environment she's raised in. You know what I mean?
And they put a quote in the video, something, I can't remember it to word for word, but something along the lines of the white children in America are abandoned to white supremacy or something like that. Basically saying all that white children know is white supremacy.
Right.
Without even realizing, like, do you realize what you're putting these kids through? Like that kid that was in the video? That's not, you're pushing racism on kids who aren't even thinking about racism.
No, because she's a bad kid because she's white and she needs to realize that she's white and she needs to feel bad about it.
That's terrible.
And then now after that part of the video, then we go into, now they have a group of kids. This is an older group of kids, young teenagers, maybe like 14, 15 range, something like that. And they take him out to this field. There's some guy who I can only assume is probably a professor somewhere.
A liberal arts or something like that.
Right.
You can tell. He's literally in the video force-feeding kids information that just... One of the things that really got me was, he's like, alright, what is whiteness, basically? And was going off about how, because of the white man coming to America, before the white man came to America, it was filled with buffalo. The buffalo were free to roam. Months after the white man arrived, they were all wiped out. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't a mass hunting party that was done to the buffalo. That's a whole nother argument. But you're blaming that solely on white people. And then you turn around later in the video and say, well, what is white people? White people didn't consider themselves white people until the 1700s. At first, they were, Russians or they were Europeans.
Right.
And this, that.
That's a stupid-ass argument that basically, like you said, white people didn't exist until we all banded together and decided that we're the superior race or some dumb shit like that.
And that's so stupid because when we came here, the Native Americans referred to the Europeans and the British and all them as the white man.
Right. Well, that not only that, but it's just stupid failed logic. That's like saying that black people didn't exist because there was black people that came from Nigeria and they would call themselves Nigerians, and there was black people that came from here or there, you know what I mean? And they just identified as whatever country they were from. It wasn't until they decided on this greater plan that all of a sudden black people as a phrase was born. You know what I mean?
Yeah. White
people have always existed. Black people have always existed. You know what I mean? Colors exist. It's not like they don't exist. And then, I don't know. It's stupid, failed logic. And the fact that the whole video is centered around brainwashing children. You know what I mean? Or trying to make them feel bad. And then they have like this weird cross burning thing going on in the field. Basically like insinuating that I guess all white people are just burning crosses for some reason.
And there's a quote, something along the lines of, he who will burn what he prays to will burn anything.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they play the whole song from Rage Against the Machine, talk about those who want forces are the same who burn crosses. Like,
right.
Like their whole motive, this whole thing, like even when Trump was in office and they're trying to get rid of Trump, and that was that if you're a Trump supporter or you support the police and this and that, you're all of a sudden a cross burner, you're a Klansman, you're a racist, you're... Hold the phone for a minute here, all right?
Right.
Just because we believe in law and order doesn't mean that we're automatically, burning crosses and that. I just think that's stupid. It's ignorant. It's you're just lumping us together, and
it is.
That's racist.
And an even more disturbing thing about it is the fact that we're not exaggerating anything. If anything, when you follow the link or when you look up this video for yourself, it will be more disturbing than we're making it sound. So it's not like we're exaggerating things. It's not like we're putting an extra spin on it or anything. If anything, it's more disturbing in person than how we're talking about it.
And they had the lead singer of Rage Against the Machine in the video talking about how America's terrible because we're based.
What did he say? Actually, what did he say? He said that America is the most brutal nation to ever exist in the history of the world. Yeah, I could think of a couple places off the top of my head that maybe he should try visiting. Yeah, you know what I mean? Oh my God.
Or even go back in time to some societies and see what it was like then.
Right. Absolutely ridiculous. And then, if that wasn't enough, then I stumbled across a beauty of an article that essentially is the same thing. Now, this one from Newsweek is titled, "All Men Are Responsible for the Culture That Allowed Sarah Everard's Murder." Now, the backstory to this is, I guess in the UK, I guess there was, all I really know is that there was a woman, she was murdered. I guess it was a cop or something that killed her, I think off duty or whatever. It's not like a police involved shooting. It's a guy who was a cop, but he murdered this woman apparently.
We've seen that time and time again. It actually happened in the town I live in. A police officer from Texas came to kill an ex.
Yeah.
It happened right in the town I live in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's the title of it again. All Men Are Responsible for the Culture That Allowed Sarah Everard's Murder by Amy Aves Challenger. And it says, "It's time for all men everywhere to do more." And then it starts off, "Like 1 in 3 women worldwide, I've been the victim of sexual assault and harassment. And so the tragedy of the kidnapping and murder of Sarah Everard in the UK wasn't surprising. Nor was the trending Twitter hashtag men responded with hashtag not all men. We all want to believe in good men. And because I live with a good man," she puts that in quotes, "while raising 2 sometimes good boys and a girl, I haven't talked much about my trauma relating to men. It's depressing, embarrassing old news, or so I've always thought. Instead, my battering has continued internally. When I run on a trail in a park, I feel nervous. When I walk alone at night, I take the dogs and look over my shoulder. I don't hug most men. And my husband, a 6'6" white male ex-football player, doesn't always understand."
That sounds like a you problem.
Right. First of all, okay, let's address the first couple things. First of all, I wouldn't expect you to be going around hugging most men.
Right.
I don't think most women hug most men. Just
most
like
men
most men, you're right.
Don't want you hugging them anyway.
Right, and most men aren't going around hugging most women. You know what I mean? That's not so. Second of all, that is not a female thing to be nervous sometimes when you're walking the streets. Right, it happens to everybody, especially if you're in an unfamiliar neighborhood, especially for all kinds of reasons. You know what I mean?
You could have somebody who just gives you a bad vibe. And you could be in a situation where like you just don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could be you could be pumping gas at a gas station in a remote area at nighttime and be like, you know what I mean? Have a bad feeling. It's just.
Well, that's why. First question I would ask her: have you heard of the Second Amendment?
Well, probably not. If where's she from again?
Well, I'm guessing since she's writing for Newsweek and since she says a woman who was killed in the UK I'm guessing that she would be American, but I mean, if not, then she wouldn't have the Second Amendment. But
Right. That's what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking she was.
but I'm thinking she's an American, especially, and then her husband's an ex-football player. You know what I mean?
Well, if she wasn't from America though, football is a whole nother sport.
Right, but that's football.
Oh,
And
football.
as it's written, it's football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you now.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure that she's from America. That is where the Second Amendment. I would tell her, go out, depending on what state you live in, get your concealed carry permit, or even better, if you live in an open carry state, you know what I mean? You will feel so much less nervous when you know that you have the ability to defend yourself.
Right. It's
you
not
know
that
what I mean?
you want to use it.
And second of all, it's not just you walking around feeling nervous because you think that all men are going to try to batter or rape or kill you at any minute.
Anybody could do that.
Right.
Women rape women. Women rape men. You know what I mean?
Not only that, but it's normal to feel nervous sometimes, especially out in the public or in certain neighborhoods, unfamiliar neighborhoods, any kind of situation really.
And I agree with what you're saying. I guess the way I was looking at it was that she was trying to make it a men versus women issue, and I'm just trying to stress the point that, regardless of what sex you are, you could hurt somebody or have bad intentions, or
Right.
or be a victim of someone who had bad intentions, regardless of sex.
Right.
So I don't like that whole. They're again, just like the race issue, they're making it us versus them situation.
Yeah. Well, even by the title, all men are responsible. You know what I mean? So then she even goes on to continue, and she says that her husband tells her, "Our neighborhood is safe," he says. "You're safe." I try to believe him. But now we're preparing our 12-year-old daughter to face the world. And to do that, we must recognize the profound forces that play against all women. I feel I need to help my husband, who is often more of a feminist than I am, understand how unsafety feels and how old news and the behavior of other men is tied to new news and today's men.
I'm sorry, but when you're raising your daughter, just like if you're raising a son, right? If you're a woman, right, and you're raising, let's say, a son, right? You and your husband have a son, you're raising him. Your husband shows your son how to be a man and how to treat women based off of how he treats you, and you as a mother show your son how women are to be treated. Does that make sense? Or how a woman should treat a man, vice versa. And then same thing if you have a daughter. If you have a daughter, it's like you're raising them to show them how they should be treated and how they should be treating their partners.
Your role models.
Yeah, basically that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and so when you're raising that kid, maybe raise them to not feel like a victim all the time, but show them how one should be treated and how to expect to be treated. You know what I mean?
You would think, but just like you just said, it's exactly the opposite, where they're raising them already in the mindset that they're a victim and the entire world is out to get you, and they're gonna get you the second that you're out alone or you're unprepared, or you know what I mean.
And that's where
what about the mentality that sets up? You know what I mean, especially in a developing mind.
That builds anxiety, that builds mental health issues. You need to. I believe in self-reliance. I believe in self-defense. As long as you're teaching someone to do that while also teaching them how to live their life, lead a normal, happy life without being paranoid all the time that someone's going to rape them or jump out of, behind a corner and kill them. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't want to do that because then, like you said, it breeds fear, it breeds anxiety.
Well, here she goes. So already she's starting by telling her daughter that she's going to be a victim and that everybody is going to want to be violent against her and hate her. Now she's going to start in on her boys. She says, "In truth, all of our stories are tied to one another. Threats to all women are connected and statistically real. One woman's abuse, especially if unreported or invalidated, makes another more likely. One man's consumption of porn, demeaning comments toward a woman, or distancing himself from statistics of his own gender, makes the next demeaning comment, the next rape, more likely. I need to explain to my two boys that violence against women requires a change not just in bad men, but the behaviors and media consumption of all men and boys.
So make your boys feel like they're terrible people from the get-go, even when they've done nothing wrong. And teach your daughter to be a victim. You know what you're raising? You're raising SJWs. That's what the hell you're raising. You're not raising normal people.
I mean, already I am getting the image here of a super tense household. You know what I mean?
If you would just raise people with morals and freaking respect for not only themselves but other people, you wouldn't have these issues.
Right. It sounds like this consumes her life. You know what I mean? This is all she thinks about. This is all she is about, to the point where that's then all she's about with her children. You know what I mean? It's like, bitch, we're trying to watch The Lion King here. All right? Can we have one movie? Well, let me tell you about The Lion King. Oh, Jesus Christ. You know what? Never mind.
Let me tell you how Nala was a victim.
Yeah, exactly. So, she continues now. According to an enormous study conducted by the American Psychological Association, media plays an enormous role in the sexualization of young girls. Another APA study reports how girls, especially black girls, essentially live and perform within the stereotypes of inferiority we create for them. This is just, and then she goes on, she's talking about cat calls, and I mean, it gets
First of all, cat calls is outdated.
It is. Who does cat calls?
I've never in my lifetime, even going to bars and hanging out with guys or seeing, crowded events like that, I've never once heard a guy cat call.
Well, that's because even when catcalling was a thing, decades ago, it wasn't like a prominent everywhere. It's not like all men were walking around just catcalling every time we were outside. You know what I mean?
That was media.
Right. Well, and it was rare. Maybe a construction crew in a city, or you know what I mean? Which there's always gonna be filth and assholes. There always has been. There always will be.
Yeah.
Raising your daughters to think they're a victim and telling your sons that they're bastard assholes before they've ever even done anything isn't going to change that.
It's like over strict parents, like with rules, regardless of all that strict bullshit that she's putting in her kids' heads. Normal strict parents usually are so strict that it pushes their kids away into doing exactly what they're trying to get them to not do. Like they're gonna have a complete opposite reaction. So what's gonna happen when you push all this stuff into their heads? Now they're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna act this way in front of my mom, but really now they're gonna, because they're gonna focus on it so much, they're gonna rebel and just do exactly that. You're creating awkward kids.
Right. And the whole, SJW scene that we see going on these days.
I think it's funny when you see those videos of people bringing up quotes that, like, the Democrats say. And, like, Biden will say something, right? And they'll put this quote, but they'll say that the quote was by Trump, not by Biden. And they'll put it in front of the SJWs and get their reaction, and they'll flip it and say, Trump's this and that, he's a piece of shit for saying that. Yeah. Like, well, actually...
Or they flip the script on him.
Yeah, actually, Biden and Pelosi said that.
But yeah, between... Now, the Rage Against the Machine video in this article is just two examples and the overall culture that's going on right now, where, and it's just like they said in the Rage Against the Machine video, where they even say in the video when you watch it, simply by being white, you are racist. No matter how hard you work to fight racism, no matter how much of a justice warrior you are, if you are white, you are inherently bred with racism in you, and you will never be able to fully get rid of it. Now, compile that now on top of also the anti-masculinity, you know what I mean? So, I mean, if you're a white male right now, you are public enemy number one, the filth of the earth.
And that's creating hate.
It is. Well, an open hate, an open discrimination. And I mean, it's pretty much open season on white males right now, as we've seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the purge, it's the genocide.
It's never been acceptable, and it's never been acceptable to do to any race. But this is how it happens, where a culture gets behind the idea of one specific group being the quote unquote bad guys or whatever, and that's how genocide happens. That's how tyranny happens. You know what I mean? Whether it's Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps or Jewish people in concentration camps in the Holocaust.
It's kind of like if they keep purging, like you said, if the white male is continuously the victim, they're not attacking the white women, God forbid. I think they're trying to basically breed out the white male because they're essentially the racist. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Is basically what's going to end up happening.
Right. Well, I mean, it is. Well, the white people in general, are attacked as racist, white supremacists, all that. That does go for the ladies as well. Although, yes, the higher focus is on specifically the white males. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Every time that it reaches a new high, I think, hopefully that's about as worse as it can get. But at this point, the culture is a runaway train. You know what I mean? So, really, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see.
It's like falling upstairs.
Right. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Biden falling up the stairs 3 times trying to get on his own plane.
Like, oh my, I'll make it back up. He needs a life alert. That's what he needs.
He needs a lot of things. He needs to go home. And like we were talking about before, get ready for Kamala. But not only that with the stairs, but really the last 24 to 48 hours have been a complete and utter embarrassment if you are an American patriot. Okay, so we have Biden falling up the stairs 3 times. We have Putin openly challenging Biden to an open debate, which obviously the Biden
would
admin
destroy him.
Right, anybody would destroy him. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, then they have a conference up in Alaska and China basically, to paraphrase, tells America to mind its own business and shut its mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So between all 3 of those together, it's been incredibly, that's the only word I can use, it's just been embarrassing. I know, for a patriot like myself.
You got other places like Australia saying, wake the hell up, America. You're letting all this, the stampede happen. Before, when Trump was in office, you didn't have these threats. You didn't have these people acting out of line. You get what I'm saying? And how, especially China's, like you were talking about China's whole spiel there, how does that make the China sympathizers feel? People like Biden and all of them who are saying, oh, they're still a developing country. We need to encourage the growth of China. We need to help them. We're friends with them. And I turn around and why China slaps the shit out of them and says, shut the hell up and sit in your place.
Right.
How does that make them feel?
I imagine that it doesn't make them feel anyway, because they seem to be in on it. You know what I mean? Half of them are probably in China's pocket. I mean, the fact that not only China, but China, Russia, Iran, all these countries feel now incredibly open to openly attack us, openly mock us, assert their dominance over our government and our country as a whole. You know what I mean? And there's no answer for it. You know what I mean? Just like the open challenge to Biden to debate, it was just like, oh, well, no, we wouldn't do that. And then the thing with China and the meeting up in Alaska, you know what I mean? There was no answer or retaliation to that. We just shut up and stared at the floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's sad.
It is sad. And it's very embarrassing. And I don't know, but we gotta, you know, take Australia's advice and wake the hell up here.
Yep, it's time.
So, our great New York State Governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Dun dun dun.
Man, he just deeper and deeper and deeper. So he's up to 7 women accusers now.
And not only that, he disobeyed his lawyer's advice and went out and tried to make an announcement himself to make it so he didn't look guilty by saying, "I didn't do this. I'm sorry that he's like stumbling over his own words. In one sentence, he says that women should be open and come forward, and we should believe them, and they should feel comfortable doing this. But at the same time, I didn't do this. She's wrong. They're lying, all of them. So what is it? Are these women lying, or are they telling the truth? And you're a pig, and you know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably, especially because, you know, look back at like when Kavanaugh was going through his confirmation. Cuomo was very quick to jump right on that bandwagon with de Blasio Ford, and we need to believe her, and he's guilty, and all of a sudden, now when it comes back around, and you don't have one woman, you have 7 women, at least at this point. You know what I mean? Now all of a sudden the story changes.
Stop being a hypocrite, Cuomo. Do the right thing.
Exactly.
Step down, admit that you're a piece of shit pig, and move on with your life.
So we've got now officially, I think we're up to 3 separate investigations going on into this. We have the New York State Assembly. We have the AG, Letitia James, is doing her own investigation, I believe. And then, I guess just for shits and giggles, the Cuomo administration is doing their own independent investigation.
Of course they are.
Right, of course they are. I can't imagine what they'll find. So, but the New York State Assembly side of things is getting some attention because they appointed Davis Polk Law Firm for their investigation, and they've been highly criticized for this, for unacceptable conflicts of interest, as the lawyer of one of the women put it, because retired law firm partner, one of the retired partners from that law firm is the husband of Chief Judge Janet DeFiore. I hope I didn't butcher her name there. But now, Judge Janet is the top judge in the top court of the state, the New York State of Appeals. Okay? Now, she was appointed by Cuomo, and she would join the Senate in deciding Cuomo's fate should they decide to follow through with impeachment.
Should we bring outside people then?
Well, the problem is it's because of the revolving doors in government and how corrupt it is. It's very hard to find outside people. Like just this one law firm in particular, many of the lawyers that have either worked there or do work for there are like in government now themselves. Like New York Rep Kirsty Gillibrand, or whatever her first name is there. And there's a bunch of them. Like, pretty much think of the people in the New York State government. A lot of them either worked for this law firm or do work for this law firm.
Now, maybe I'm wrong, but with checks and balances in that, shouldn't this be a federal issue, like a federal investigation? Because that's where they step in. They know that there's no foul play, because instead of you're basically leaving it up to the people who are all in the same system and all, buddy to begin with, to figure out what's going on.
Right.
You should have that outside investigation. Now, I don't agree it should be another state, but that's kind of what the federal government's for, is regulating stuff like that. Just like it's also our local government's job to investigate the federal government and make sure everything's equal and fair. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
I feel like that's where the federal government comes in. I feel like they should be looking into this.
Now, what segment of the government? Like, would that be like an FBI thing, or? See, it's weird because
I don't think it would be like a CIA thing, but definitely like maybe an FBI thing, like our branch of the FBI. You know what I mean? Because I don't. Obviously, the federal government has a lot to deal with foreign affairs as it is, but at the same time, they're here for us. You
right.
get what I'm saying? So they should also deal with home issues like this instead of writing all these executive orders to go and put all of what basically aligns your pockets. Make laws that aligns your pockets. Deal with actual issues we're dealing with like this. If you say that these women's voices really matter, and you're saying, what I mean, help them out and do what's right. Do a true, proper investigation instead of letting friends of the person. I'm trying to word it properly. So you got the defendant, which would be Cuomo. Instead of having an investigation done by his friends or allies within the community where they were friends just a month ago. You know what I mean? Don't do that. You should have outside source deal with the situation.
Right.
It's like if me and you were together, right, and we did something that violated, I don't know, where something that involved with the courts and stuff, right? We have outside lawyers and courts dealing with our issue between each other. We wouldn't have like our mothers get together and fight our fights for us. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's essentially what they're doing with Cuomo in this whole situation.
Yeah. I think you're right to a degree there. Now, I'm starting to really think that he may go down for this.
And he probably will. We talked about that before.
Right.
They're going to sacrifice him.
Right. Well, I'll say had, because when I first started thinking this, it was a unique take, but now I've heard a couple other people that have come to the same conclusion, so it's not really a unique take anymore. But I really started thinking, because the nursing home scandal started to really gain steam, and then all of a sudden that's when this sexual harassment hit. And ever since then, it's been one woman after another, relentless, and it's taken up all the air in the space to the point where, so I'm thinking to myself, all right, so I think what's going on here is I think that they are going to go after Cuomo for this sexual harassment. I think that it is a real thing, and I think that it is, but it's also a convenient thing.
A distraction.
Right, because now they can bury the nursing home scandal, or try to, because Governor Cuomo wasn't the only blue state governor to have a policy like that.
There's more than one state wrapped up in it, so all the other states are like, we need a distraction. They all come together and like, well, you'd escape.
Right, because if that takes off in New York, then all of a sudden Governor Whitner in Minnesota or whatever state she's in, she could start getting in trouble for it. And there was other states, you know what I mean, other blue states that had that same terrible policy. So I really think that this is a way to distract and shut down that. But that's not to say that it's fake. It very well may be real. And from what I've heard in political circles is that it is real, and that Cuomo, I guess, burnt a lot of bridges and was a real dick to a lot of people on his way up. You know what I mean?
People, he would call them at home, like we talked about. There's that one guy who came forward, and of course, again, I can't remember the name because I forgot to look into it more. But his family heard the phone call, and Cuomo was just screaming at him, saying, "You better fix this."
Right.
Like, that's not professional. That's not how you handle things.
Well, I guess, I don't know, with the personality like Cuomo's, I very much can see that, because he's always had that kind of in-your-face personality, you know what I mean? Which can be a very good trait for a leader.
Yeah.
But
he did it wrong.
I mean, yeah, and
you saved that
to the point where you make those enemies that now are seeing their chance and smelling blood in the water. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen.
You save that aggressiveness for your true enemies and people you're really against, not your own people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And now all of a sudden, like always happens in New York, he's like, So this is all going on, and then in the middle of this, he wants to be like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, guys, hey, I'm thinking about maybe legalizing marijuana over here. I mean, do you think that's something we could do?
And they're like, nah. He's like, okay, what about
All right.
shrooms? Shrooms.
New York has been talking about potentially legalizing marijuana for, I don't know, like at least more than the last 5 years now. Yeah. I think it first started like 6 or 7 years ago. They first started talking about.
To the point where they're like, all right, we'll decriminalize it.
Yeah.
But now, aside from.
And then they allowed medical.
Yep. Aside from Cuomo trying to push out a distraction away from all this, which would be the legalization of marijuana, he crippled our economy so bad before COVID even hit that, you know what I mean, we're so far down now, he's going to have to do something to create revenue for the state to get our economy booming again.
Right.
And the only, really, good avenue would be the legalization of marijuana.
It would be, but it should have been done a long time ago. You know what I mean? Really. And especially with New York being a one-party blue state like it is, the fact that we're really the only one-party blue state that hasn't legalized marijuana yet is just absolutely ridiculous. And then even with their medical program, again, in true Cuomo fashion, it was set up to just be a benefit for his friends and special interests. Yeah. So when they first started that, you know, you got places like California and other places where they legalized it, and then you got independent growers, and then you got the distributors, and it was kind of like a big business boom, you know what I mean? Yeah. Not here in New York. When they wanted to start up medical in New York, then guess what? It's $150,000 non-refundable application fee that we very well may turn down. You know what I mean? So that pretty much all but guarantees that the only people that can get into that program
are top 1%.
Yep. Or already big business owners, wealthy people, exactly, the elites. His friends, his special interest groups.
People all tax the hell out of too. Yep. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Well, not only that, but okay, so not only can they bury the COVID, but they're not in any danger here, okay? New York, like we were just talking about, is a one-party blue state. So by going after Cuomo, they don't run any risk. It's not like there's a chance he'll be replaced with a Republican governor. You know what I mean? It's a completely safe blue state. The federal Democrats have already seized power of all of the federal government. New York, if it changes hands, it's just going to go to another Democrat governor. It's completely safe. Well, it's like the same reason that you see that now the Newsom recall effort is starting to garnish some momentum in California. Because these are one-party blue states, and because only Democrats can win there, it's completely safe now to attack those governors, and it's a perfect opportunity for the mainstream media to pretend to go back to journalism. You know what I mean?
Right, but I believe that with the Dems purging themselves like that, they're gonna create a wave of the Conservative Party. I maybe not overnight, maybe not within the next 5-10 years, but slowly they're gonna gain a rise, I think, in conservatives, because the conservatives are seeing what's going on. You know what I mean? And I think they're gonna push a little bit harder than before. Granted, they're probably not gonna be lighting torches and pitchforks and all that shenanigans, but because they're like a big sloth kind of. You know what I mean? They move slowly, but I think you're gonna see something happen like that. And the problem, though, is that even if you do have Republican, so there's been talks of Republicans running in New York for Cuomo's spot, right? So let's say they eliminate Cuomo, and the election's coming up too. Let's say that Republican does get in there by some chance. I have my doubts about them, and I feel like that they're just gonna be another rhino. Is basically what it's gonna be.
Another John Katko.
Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's absolutely right. First of all, I don't think that there's any chance in hell that a Republican could run. I know they like talking about it, just like every once in a while they like talking about Republicans running in California, you know. And I would argue that, because there is a large Republican presence in California, not in the government, but in the population, the people, the civilians in Northern California, much like we see a little bit in Western New York, but upstate New York is red, crimson red. I mean, that's your deep woods country boys up there, and they are deep red.
Mm-hmm.
So every once in a while, the Republicans, they like to talk about making a run in either New York or California, but I don't think really that they have any chance. I mean, look at California even now. Most of the time, just has two Democrats running against each other. There was such little chance of Republicans winning that they actually changed their rules to allow it. They did okay, from now on it's going to be the top two. It's not going to be the top Democrat and the top Republican and then they run against each other. It's going to be the top two regardless of party and they go up against each other. So now in the main election, it's often two Democrats running against each other in the end.
Yeah.
So, in our leftovers today, Portland, BLM, Antifa.
Alright, talk about the same people who are saying we don't want Biden, we want justice or revenge or something like that.
Yeah, the people that have been setting up autonomous zones and burning cities for the last year.
The same thing that the conservatives should be doing.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. We really don't believe in just burning people's businesses to the ground.
F it.
But I do wish that we would protest more, and I do wish that we would be more active.
You know what the Republicans are. I'm sorry, I misspoke. I believe the true conservatives should be doing? They should be building those autonomous zones, but they should be going to the wildlife conservation areas in the country. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you got the...
No, that's pristine, preserved land. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and they ain't gonna come take it out there.
They're not going to come take it here where we are. You know what I mean? All you got to do is be outside of a city.
Yeah. But, you get what I'm saying? Like,
no. We are our autonomous zone. We don't need that shit. But, so, what they did is, now, remember, a few episodes ago, we played the clips of Merrick Garland, who was going through his confirmation process.
Yeah.
And remember, he was talking about the domestic terrorism at the Capitol for January 6th and all that. And then, they said, Antifa and BLM have attacked federal courthouses. How do you feel about that? And he was like, since it was after hours and since nobody was there, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, in Portland now, they went ahead and they set fire to a federal courthouse while people were in at this time. And again, media silence. Yeah, most people probably haven't even heard about that.
I haven't even heard about that until now.
Right. Yeah, but it's there. I mean, you can Google it for yourself. Look it up on YouTube. There's footage of it. Yeah, BLM and Antifa in Portland lit a federal courthouse on fire while people were inside still.
Why is it always Portland?
Because Portland is a goddamn disaster.
I see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait. Didn't they? Isn't Portland where they got rid of most of the police units out there? They basically got rid of a ton of police out there. Right?
They may have, yeah, or they had like a big defunding.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Probably.
So there was a huge defunding. I believe it was in Portland, and there was a study that was done, and crime has gone up like 300% in that area since they got rid of the police.
Right. Well, speaking of which, they have another autonomous zone in Minneapolis. That's the George Floyd Autonomous Zone, named after him. Now, recently, I believe this may have been last weekend or maybe early this week. They had a drive-by shooting in the autonomous zone, and then the victim ended up dying because cops could not and paramedics could not get to the scene.
Wow, a reoccurring.
So they have footage, again, you can look it up for yourself, of the first responders trying to get to the scene, and then they're at the barricade.
My thing is, if your issues with the police and the elites and this and that, fine, bring the fight to them if that's what you claim to be fighting. Why is it that you're fighting the first responders and medics who are just trying to help save people's lives?
Right.
You don't value these people's lives at all.
Right.
Even in true war overseas, different countries allow medical transport to come in and remove soldiers who have been wounded and try to rescue their own people. You know what I mean? That is a thing.
Yep, absolutely.
So even the worst people in the world let people try to save people's lives, their own people, because they realize that they're just fighting for their country. They're not. It's not personal. They're just fighting for their country.
Right. Well, and we've talked about it on this channel. You know what I mean? I fully appreciate that we need reforms in policing and all that. But like you were just saying, you can't just block off an entire community and not allow first responders or anybody to help the people of that community. You know what I mean?
If you wound someone that's on your enemy, right, or they take casualties, you would think that to them that would be enough to show them that you're not messing around, that you seriously want change. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you're blatantly murdering these people and refusing to give them help. You're letting them lie there and suffer until they die.
Yeah.
Which
basically.
is worse than a clean-cut kill. You're literally torturing people by letting them bleed out till they die.
Pretty much. Now, finally, to finish up here, did you hear that the Biden administration has fired or sidelined and people in the administration who admitted to past marijuana use?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yep. So apparently, just like applications we fill out for jobs, you know what I mean? Same thing. Have you used before the test? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Well, there was people that, were honest and checked yes for previous past use of marijuana. Now, those people have been fired, or they've been put into, I don't know, basically like a solitary position. They've been removed from their positions and either fired or sidelined. And all I can think when hearing this is, what about Kamala? Because she openly admitted to smoking marijuana in the past.
Yeah.
On a radio show.
She's exempt from all that.
Yeah,
She's got immunity,
Yeah, it's just for you. I'm like, did you forget to fire your VP there, Biden? Because
right, and I'm pretty sure Biden smoked something if he hasn't before. You ever see that Key and Peele sketch where they had Obama back in the college days when he was smoking a joint?
Oh yeah.
It probably did happen in real life. That's why they're making fun of it. And Biden was.
Well, that was the whole thing because Obama tried. He tried doing that stupid line that, yes, he had tried it, but he didn't inhale, or some dumb shit like that, and everybody was making fun and roasting him over it for the longest time. It's still like even a running joke going now.
That was some good stuff.
Hell yeah. All right, but that about wraps it up for us this week. We're just about out of time. So, again, look for us on Rumble, Google Podcasts, other sites. if there's podcasts or videos there, we'll probably be there. As always, take a second, please like, comment, subscribe, hit those buttons, and be sure to look for our special deep dive into the southern border crisis this Wednesday. Maybe both of us, maybe one of us. We're still trying to figure that out. But we'll be there. So check us out then.
Toodles.
See you.